So we are going to build up to another balance and have a play about with balances. The first thing that I would like you to do though is to settle yourself onto your mat lying down. I've rolled up a blanket. So when this blanket's rolled up, it looks pretty similar to what your mat would look like rolled up. So if you're on a carpet in your house, you could actually just roll your mat up if you want to. If you've got a bath sheet sort of towel or a blanket and you want to use your blanket, you're making a kind of a long sausage shape with your blanket. Okay. I would also have a belt, a strap, a dressing gown belt, a scarf, something like that as well, so that you can just hold your legs, because mostly I think you'll want to have your knees bent, feet flat to the floor for this one, because I think that's going to suit backs more. Okay, so if it's going to suit your back a bit more to have your knees bent, it's really lovely to have your knees held together with a strap. So this sausage kind of rolled up blanket is actually going to go here. I mean, obviously you're lying on the floor as opposed to standing up. If you can get you to feel for where your bottom rib is, the rolled up blanket wants to start where your bottom rib is. If I could just show you another thing for your lower back as well, because I think it's quite helpful. So when you sit in front of this rolled up blanket, make sure you've got at least the size of a sort of big grapefruit here. That's probably about right to get your lowest rib. So when you settle here, you can check that you've got your lowest rib. You can come onto your forearms. If you're on your forearms, it gives you a chance with your knees bent, feet flat to the floor, to just tilt your pelvis to put the whole of the back of the pelvis flat on the floor, and then to ease yourself down onto your rolled up blanket. If your head feels like it's tipping a long way back, it's absolutely fine to put a cushion under your head as well. Notice that this rolled up blanket's down the middle of your back, so you're slightly kind of wobbly on it. So when we bring the arms down, then rotate the palms up to the ceiling, so you feel a little bit like your shoulder blades are hugging the blanket, and then reach your fingers down towards your feet and then let your shoulders go so they curl around the blanket. And after all of that instruction, of course, we're wanting to have the legs tied together, but this is just so you can see what I'm doing. Then have a strap around your knees, because that holds your legs together. The strap around your knees, you want to again be leaving some space. So a bit of space between your knees and your ankles, so that your ankles, your knees, your ball and socket joints are lined up, and you can allow the weight of your legs to kind of fall out to the side and be held by the strap. Okay, brilliant. So rolling up a blanket or a towel so that you can lie along the length of it. It might take a little while to just work out where to have it in your back, so that you don't feel anything in your lower back. So feeling something in your lower back could be that you want to tilt, like I've shown you, tilt the pelvis, or just alter whereabouts you're lying on your rolled up blanket. So this is a slightly different way to have yourself a supported back bend. So your back bend is from the mid part of the back where you're supported by your rolled up blanket. So that's where you've got a little bit of a lift. But in terms of your back bend, really it's going across the width of your body. So if you notice, each shoulder is kind of dangling in space a touch, and you're letting your shoulders feel heavy. So you're getting a back bend, a small back bend from the back of your head into the top of your lower back. You're also getting another back bend the other way from one shoulder to the other. So settling yourself there and allowing gravity to do its thing, using your out breath to let the body settle and feel heavy. Ensuring that your neck feels comfy, maybe having something under the back of your head. This rolled up blanket or towel under your back, great place to come to when you come in from a day out. That could be a day out at the office where you might be sitting quite a lot and slightly hunched forwards. It could be after a long car journey somewhere. It could be after quite a bit of gardening and doing stuff, shopping, that kind of thing, because when we're out and about, we are forward facing, leaning forward, picking things up, slouching a little bit if we're sitting. This has us kind of being in the counter pose to some of those places that we might be throughout the day. You don't need to be here very long. You could set a timer. 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. It's an opportunity to just notice the body, but also then the mind. So be aware of what's happening in your mind, depending on what's been going on today. All sorts of thoughts in the mind. And maybe actually it feels quite nice to switch off those thoughts, put them down for a little while, and allow your mind to become single focused, just on something, and often that can be the breath. It's quite a sort of, I guess, because the breath is always with you, isn't it? So it's portable, you carry it around everywhere you go. So if we learn some techniques to focus the mind with the breath, we can do it anywhere. So noticing that when you've been here for a little while, the body's softening, it's easing, you're beginning to get that sense of arriving onto your mat. The breath is a little slower and softer, maybe a little longer, and it perhaps feels absolutely fine to take the breath down into the very bottom part of the lungs. That sense that you breathe down into your abdomen. So just for the next couple of minutes, we're going to practice having our mind focused on something. We're going to count the out breath backwards from 20. So as you next breathe out, counting 20. having your in-breath. And when you next breathe out, counting 19 and keeping that going. So it's a soft, long, easy breathing rhythm. And we try to not get too attached to the outcome of getting to 0, the outcome of succeeding with keeping the mind on the count. We simply notice when the mind wanders off and bring it back to this single point of focus, counting the out breath backwards from 20. And each time you notice the mind has wandered off, you come back to 20 and begin. And when you get to 0, you come back to 20 and begin. So we don't worry about getting there, and we don't worry about racing to get there. After your next out breath, releasing your count and simply noticing how was that for you. We notice the different techniques that work, and we notice the different techniques that don't work. And there might be the variables of what's been going on in the time of day, that kind of thing, how tired we are, that make it more or less successful. Just noticing. So before we come up to sitting, just have a little scan around your body and check in. How are things feeling this evening? How does your body feel? Is there anything that's tight? Anything that needs an ease? Anything sore, injured? Things you know you need to look after? Take a moment to give yourself permission to move in the right way for you. And easing yourself around, wiggling fingers and toes, taking your time. Coming up to sitting when you're ready. So from your sitting position, if we have legs out in front of us, it gives us a chance then to just check in with what's going on in the ball and socket joints. So we just flop the feet out to the side and notice where they go, and then flop the feet in. Flop them out, flop them in. Maybe take the legs a little bit wider, flop them out, flop them in. And just noticing if one way is easier than the other, if one leg seems a little bit more willing to move than the other one. So you start to notice your tight side and your looser side. Brilliant. And then ease yourself up Hug your right knee up towards you to wherever feels okay for you. Take hold of the foot with the left hand and have a cello play. So when we're playing the cello, be careful about holding the knee close to you and having this action of stepping the foot, because nothing's really happening in the ball and socket joint. So you bring the leg across slightly, let the knee ease towards the floor, support the leg by all means, and then play your cello, and notice it feels really different in the ball and socket joint. So it doesn't matter how big this action is, it's only going to be as big as your ball and socket joint wants you to go, but we're noticing and easing into that joint. Fantastic. So then have a little turn of that leg round to the side. I'll ease round a little bit. So noticing where you want the foot. My knee really doesn't like the foot at right angles. My knee likes Darcy Bustle foot. Your foot could be anywhere. So don't necessarily copy me, but do what feels right for your knee. Your left foot, the sole of the foot to the thigh, lean out to the left, because then it gives you the space to start to have a wiggle into this ball and socket joint. Brilliant. And once you've got a little bit of wiggling action going, maybe you bring that hand, the left hand, a bit closer so your body becomes more and more upright, but only to wherever feels okay for you. A lot of opportunity with this particular sort of wiggling action. I'm going to turn so you can see. So we've got the spine upright as we wiggle. We can lean back and rest on our hands and still wiggle, but then notice that this puts quite a long lengthening sensation in front of the thigh. But we can wiggle and ease here. As long as your knee is okay, you can do what you fancy here. So some of you I know will probably quite fancy coming down onto your elbows even, and just tiny wiggle, but you get a lot more lengthening down the front of that thigh. Watch out for bowing into your back too much. Be careful. Come up, head towards that upright position. And then you might even lean forwards. When you lean forwards, be aware we don't want this action, because actually nothing's changing in the way the pelvis and the ball and socket is. You want to be sitting upright and leaning forwards by tilting the pelvis to get a different wiggling action. Okay? So it is slightly different about tilting the pelvis. Super, and then come back up to the upright, unravel your legs, give them a wiggle, stay with your right leg, hug, and then cello. And then keep the legs still for a moment. Both hands come underneath the shin, so be careful not to pull on the foot because you yank into that ankle joint. And have a think about lifting the ankle up and then letting the knee move down. So the ankle comes up and then the knee moves down, but be careful with the knee joint. And then you might rock a little bit and do it a little bit more. So we end up rotating the thigh bone out a little bit more. And if you want to bring the leg up close to you, then do. But again, noticing what happens in the knee. If I tug too much at the moment, my right knee is going to squeal at me because it's not feeling very happy. So don't take it any further than you want to go. Super. And then release and give everything a bit of a flop about with that foot. Let's go to the left side. So hug the left knee up, hold on to the foot. Little bit of cello playing. So it does get tempting to hold on. Partly this is because it's not easy sitting up and we want to collapse back. So if we hold on to the leg, we can sit up more. But if we're just stepping, not much is happening. So hold the leg up to let the knee go out to the side and then cello play. It doesn't matter how big this movement is, we're looking for something that we can feel happening in the ball and socket joint. Lovely. So then fold that leg round. Remember, the foot goes wherever it feels right for you. Sole of the right foot to the left thigh. Lean and have a bit of lifting and lowering rocking action with the left side of the pelvis. And notice where everything wants to go. And maybe the right hand comes in towards you a bit more because you sit up a little bit more as that ball and socket joint eases. Super. Then you might choose to lean back and ease. And you might choose to go further back. You might come onto your elbows behind you. Just watch out for your lower back. Don't get that mega arch in your lower back, particularly if it's tight here and you come down, you're going to have this big lift and you're going to feel it in your lower back. So if it's a bit too tight, then don't go too far. One side always going to be a bit tighter than the other. When you're ready to, you sit up. Sit really tall and maybe just a bit of a tilt forwards with that pelvis. Be careful that it's not this action bringing the nose down because nothing's really changing in the pelvis. We'll just strain into the neck. Super. And ease. Wiggling about. And then unravel. Come back to that long leg so that you can hug up and have another little cello play, and then we can explore from here. So if your hip quite likes you moving, so dynamic kind of dynamic stretching. I do want to avoid the word stretch, but dynamic sort of movement, i.e. just keep letting the muscles soften and ease by moving them. Other option is you can bring the hands under that shin, you lift the ankle, let the knee come down, lift the ankle, let the knee come down. So we get just a bit more rotation, then bring that leg up, maybe a little bit of rocking. Be careful not to tug into that ankle joint because it might just get a bit sore. Lovely. And then you can unravel and have a little bit of a flop about. So lovely opportunity now to sit with your legs long, feet apart, and have a bit of a flop out and a flop in. And you'll probably find, even if your feet don't go any further, perhaps they just feel a bit easier up into the ball and socket joint. So ease yourself round to cat. So what I'd like you to do with cat is be very focused on your pelvis. So if you stick your little tail up in the air, it's like you're tipping your pelvis forward, your tummy button comes towards the floor, that ripple goes down the spine and your chest and your gaze lift. Then when you tilt the pelvis the other way, like you're tucking your tail, the spine has to ripple the other way and you end up looking down at your knees. So focusing on the tilt of the pelvis, as we tilt the pelvis like this, we're moving the pelvis over the ball at the end of each thigh bone. So this is moving the socket around on the ball. The other things you were doing before was moving the ball around in the socket. So it's a different way to ease your pelvis. Great one. First thing in the morning, before you do anything, you don't even have to get out of bed. Come onto your hands and knees and just gently tilt the pelvis, particularly if you feel quite tight in your ball and socket joints when you get up in the morning. We can do this one. Super. So coordinate your breath, little bit of that movement. That After your next in-breath, just let yourself come to a flat back cat. Have a look at the space between your hands and bring your right foot into that space between your hands. And then wander the foot forwards until you've got a little bit of slope on your right shin. And then bring the body up and just rest onto your thigh. So we're keeping the pelvis tilting forwards. And then slowly, slowly, slowly lower the front of you, the front of your pelvis towards the floor. And notice you get this lovely lengthening down the left leg and a bit of a deeper move into the right ball and socket joint. Be careful that your right knee doesn't wander beyond your ankle, okay? If you think it's going to, because you're going deeper and deeper, just wander the foot forwards. Use your out breath to let everything soften and ease down. Super. Then fold forward so you can bring your hands down and step your right foot back to come to cat. You might have a little easing movement in cat for a moment. Then look at the space between your hands, bring the left foot into that space. With your hands still on the floor, wander the foot forwards till you've got a slope on that shin. And then ease yourself up. Rest on that thigh, it's absolutely fine. So kneecap travels forward slightly, knee over the ankle, and then the right side of the front top of your leg is easing down to the floor. Oh, just let your sighing out breath take you there just for a bit. Brilliant. And then release your hands back down to the floor and take your left foot back and have a couple of little cat moves, easing there. And after a couple of cat moves, just have a quick watch. So I'll just show you where we're going to go. Just as a reminder of a couple of things that some of you might have done recently, some of you might not. You're going to come on your back, so just have a quick watch for a sec of me. You're going to come on your back, knees bent, feet flat to the floor. We do that pendulum swing, I'll talk you into it. Then we're going to cross the leg and we're going to come into this supine stretch. So if when you bring your hands through to hold on, it tugs into your neck and shoulders, have your strap here, okay? So it looks like this. So you have a strap to ease in your arms, okay? From here, we're going to hold on to the leg and take this leg long and then bring it back, then bring the foot down and then have a little turn, okay? So that's the succession of bits and bobs we're going to do. So bring yourself onto your back, knees bent, feet flat to the floor. And settle yourself there. So the first thing we're going to explore is that pendulum swing. So lift up your right knee. Have your knee joint hovering over your ball and socket joint. The lower part of your leg is asleep. It's really floppy. So you can pendulum swing your lower leg from side to side and get that sensation into the ball and socket joint. Perfect. So bring that knee towards your shoulder and keep the pendulum swing going. So it just alters where the ball and socket joint are in space and how they're kind of working together. Then cross the right leg over the left. And you want lower shin sort of area of the right leg resting on the thigh of the left, not your foot, not your ankle joint, okay, just so we don't damage anything. Useful to check by just wiggling your foot around and then you know. Brilliant. This is a great place to stay, working your right knee towards the floor. Also then, if you want to deepen it, you're lifting up the left knee and holding around the back of the left thigh. I have no issue with you holding around your shin, but if holding around your shin makes your knee joint sort of yelp a little bit, hold around the back of your thigh. If as you do that you're thinking, this is tugging in my neck and my shoulders, then you want to be using your strap around the back of your thigh just to lengthen the arms so your head and your shoulders rest on the floor. Breathe, draw your left knee in towards you and move your right knee away from you. And notice where you're wanting to feel things is in the ball and socket joint sort of connected muscles and tissue. It's a lovely sense of lengthening all around those muscles, particularly the big glute muscle, our kind of buttock muscle, gets really tight. So this is a great way to ease. Use your out breath to soften. Lovely. So then release the hold on your left leg and take hold of your right leg only, somewhere around the shin and the calf. Careful not to pull on the foot. And then lengthen your left leg long down the mat. So your right leg is still in that shape as if it's crossed. It's not up in the air. So you're getting that rotation into your thigh, into your ball and socket joint. If I turned you upside down, you'd be in pigeon. For those of you who know what pigeon looks like, that's where that leg you're holding on to is. Brilliant. And then draw your left leg back so that it can support your right leg. Then take your left foot to the floor, arms out to angel, and tilt your pelvis to the left to take your right foot to the floor on the left side of you so you get some turning into your spine. Breathe. Little bit of turning in the spine. Soften and ease. Brilliant. So I would sort of stack your right leg on top of your left and then keep your feet on the floor, lift your knees back up and have a little hug of your knees to your chest. And we've got that same work to do on the other side. So pop your feet to the floor, lift up with your left knee, pendulum swing. So your knee joint hovers above your ball and socket joint, your lower leg super floppy, it's dangling. Picture grandfather clock and that pendulum that swings. That's your lower leg and your foot, it's just swinging in space. And then drop your knee towards your shoulder and keep the pendulum swing action happening. Be careful, it's not just the foot wiggling about, that movement comes from the ball and socket joint. Brilliant. So crossing the left leg over the right. Have a little wiggle of the left foot to check you're not resting on the ankle or the foot. And ease the left knee away from you. You can lift up the right knee, hold around the back of the right thigh. You could use the belt if you want to. So much better to use the belt than have a tugging sensation in the neck. So the more vertical you keep your right thigh at this point, the more you'll feel it into your left buttock, all that many layers of muscles that support around the ball and socket joint. The more your right knee kind of wanders into the midline, so it kind of leans inwards, the less you'll feel it in your ball and socket joint. So just make little modifications and adapt the angle of that thigh to get the sensation where you want to feel it. So we move now to holding onto the left leg only, somewhere around the calf, the shin, drawing that leg in and taking your right leg long down the mat. Super, encouraging the ankle to come towards you and the knee to move away from you. Be careful with your knee joint though. Brilliant. So we bring the right knee back, support the left leg and pop the right foot to the floor. Take your arms out to angel and tilt the pelvis so that you lower your left foot to the floor on the right side of you into your twist. Fantastic. You can go as deep into that twist as you want. The sole of the foot might stay on the floor. You might roll to the inside edge of that foot and the knee might come further towards the floor. All in your control. Your twist, your spine, only you know how it feels and how far you want to take that turning. So stacking your left leg on top of your right, keep your feet on the floor, lift your knees back up, have a hug of your knees to your chest, and have a little rock of up and down your spine if you want to. We're going to come to sitting, any which way that you want to get there. So we're going to sit with our hands just behind us, our knees bent, feet flat to the floor. So you're going to cross your right leg over your left, just like you might do if you're sitting on a chair. Okay? Brilliant. And then see how it feels to tuck your right toes underneath your left leg, whether they want to or not. And unravel and try the other way. And have a little tuck and see if they want to. Super. And unravel. Sometimes you need a great big sweeping of that leg over to get an easier tuck. And then you can try it the other way. So a great big sweeping, sometimes even taking the legs further away and then bringing them back in again. And having a little wiggle about and to see how that feels. So based on how you've got your legs wrapped around one another, quite often everything's listing all over the place to make this happen. And then you look at that and think, you've got to be kidding me if I want to stand on one foot. But you're in eagle legs at the moment, so you could wander, whichever leg is the underneath one, wander it away and come up onto the heel and draw the toes up and just see how far away you can get that foot with the other one still wrapped. And then you think, oh, okay, I can see this straight line down. So there's a possibility that at some point this could be done from standing. Draw that leg in and then have a swap and a hook. Then come up onto the heel of the foot where the leg's closest to the floor and wander that foot away and notice that kind of midline down to the foot. Super. Draw that heel in, uncross, and give everything a bit of a wiggle about. Okay, so just to counter the fact that we've been doing quite a lot of coming forwards, I'd like to go back to cat. So come back to cat, put your right foot between your hands, wander that foot forwards till you've got a slope on your shin. That was all coming out a little bit jumbled. And then you can bring the knee forwards and then lift the body to rest your arms on the thighs. You can settle yourself here. So we've got this leaning forwards in the pelvis. So in order to come to the upright, I want you to think about that position you were in on your rolled up blanket and lift your upper back and take your shoulder blades towards one another behind you a touch. Imagine somebody holding around your ribs and lifting you up. So like the crown of the head's coming up. You've got this lovely angle on your pelvis, and then you could bring the arms up. You're reaching up ahead of you, beyond the crown of your head, and little by little you lift the chest, but you don't bend in the lower back, you just lift the chest. Push the foot into the floor, lift the chest, reach the ceiling, breathe. Fantastic. So we're also getting a bit of strength happening in that front leg and that back leg. Lower the arms down, hands to the floor, step your right foot back, step your left foot forwards, wiggle the toes beyond your hands, slope on the shin, bring the kneecap forwards, and then bring your body onto your thigh using your arms. Settle yourself here. Check that your knee is absolutely over the ankle, not beyond. You've got this angle on your pelvis. So we can use the hand on the knees to lift the chest a little bit. Angle on the pelvis stays there. Lift the chest. Work the shoulder blades towards one another a little bit and take the arms up. Reach. So at no point do we get any nipping in the lower back, because we've still got this lovely sense. It's the upper back working backwards. Breathe. It's really tempting here to hold your breath. So breathe, lengthen up, and then fold forwards. Step back to cat. Tuck your toes under and go to dog. And be playful in dog. Have a little wiggle around. Have a little walk of your heels down to the floor. And then wander your hands to your feet to your hands. Come to quite a raggy doll forward bend with your knees bent. We're coming up to standing. I'd like you to breathe in and sweep your arms behind you and up so that you come up to standing. And then come to mountain pose. I'm not going to get you to go back to your raggy doll forward bend, but can I just get you to watch? When you're here, and I'm getting you to sweep your arms behind you and come up, it's that action, because your arms, if you notice where they are to the midline, they stay in that line of centre of gravity. So if this happens here, you've got a completely different levering going on, okay? So much kinder to the back to take the arms up behind you. Brilliant. Let's come to mountain pose. So we need to move into our arms a little bit more. They've moved up a touch, but not that much. So let's take the arms out to the side. One palm up, one palm down, have a rolling action into your shoulders. So you're turning the palm of the hand 360 degrees so that you notice it's your shoulder joint moving. Okay? And that's the action on both sides. Brilliant. And then bring your fingers, tips to your shoulders, elbows circle, let that circling action get as big as you want it to go. Simply exploring where it wants to go. And then back the other way. Super. And bring the arms down and give them a shake. So take the arms super, super wide, give yourself a great big hug. And then wander your fingers as if you're trying to get them around behind you. So your elbows come past one another. Can't really see it when I'm entirely in a black top, which then allows you to let go of your shoulders and interlace your hands. Brilliant. So being here just for a moment, take your hands, which tend to come towards your face, take them away a little bit to get your forearms more vertical, and then lift. Super. So it's possible now to force your shoulders, okay, because you've got your hands interwoven, you've got an elbow sitting on top of the other one. I'm just moving so you can actually see what I'm doing. So you've got a lot of leverage and forceability here, okay? So the next bit that I'm going to talk you through, I would like you to do it with a lot of awareness. This elbow that's sitting on top, you can just push it into the forearm of the arm that's underneath and lift a little bit more. And it's going to feel across your upper back. So only do this as much as your upper back wants you to. So we don't get to a point where our face joins in and this hurts. We get to that point where you go, ooh, I can feel a bit of a lengthening. And then you release and you come back to the hug. Have a little notice of which arm's on top. Sweep your arms wide and then hug the other way round. Wiggle your elbows past. Oh, it's so much easier to see, isn't it, with that entirely black top. You can see how my elbows have wiggled past one another. Then you can bring your arms up. And how you hold your hands entirely up to you. Wherever they reach is generally what we need to do, isn't it? So this top arm that's resting, you can push a little bit into the crook of that lower elbow and lift. You get a bit more sensation across your upper back. Be careful though. Shoulders need to be manoeuvred with care. And release, come back to your hug. And then sweep your arms wide. Take your arms behind you. Draw your shoulder blades together. Interlace your fingers. Squeeze your shoulder blades, straighten the arms, squeeze your elbows. And then lift away to wherever feels right. Oh, breathe. Brilliant. And then release your arms down and give them a wiggle and a bit of a roll. And then to come to standing in your mountain pose. So we make the best use of our legs if we stack. We stack all our bones on top of one another down through that centre of gravity. And notice, if I just tuck slightly here, notice you have a natural curve in your spine. So whenever we're standing, we're absolutely never, ever, ever trying to take away our natural curve. So we don't want this action because it changes what's going on in the knees and all sorts. We want this lovely natural curve in the spine. We want our feet a little bit apart and our feet wherever it is that feels comfy in our knees and our ball and socket joints. And close your eyes. Use your out breath to let your shoulders settle down from your ears, your arms dangling heavily by your side. Let the body settle here. So just for a little while, we're going to keep the eyes closed. We're going to pull the weight into the left leg, into the left foot. We're going to come up onto the ball of the right. We're going to soften the left knee slightly. Don't lock it back, otherwise that will hurt it. Eyes are closed, and just noticing what it's like to be on one leg with a little stabilizer. And notice that as you're here, you get more weight into that right foot and then less, and then a bit more and then less. As the body feels like it sways a touch, just notice. Keep pouring more and more weight down into the left leg and the left foot. See if you can ease up from the ball of the right foot to find the very tips of the toes. And simply notice. Notice tension that creeps in around the shoulders, the jaw, the neck. Soften it with your out breath. Find a sense of stillness and ease, being on one foot with your little stabilizer. Put the right foot slowly back down to the floor and stand in mountain pose with your eyes closed. Noticing what it feels like now to be standing on both feet, using both legs. Pour the weight into the right leg, the right foot. Find the ball of the left foot. Soften the right knee just a touch so you don't hurt it. Let the shoulders soften, the jaw, the neck. Keep pouring weight into the right leg, the right foot, moving from the ball of the left foot to the very tips of the toes to see how that feels. Stillness, calm, ease. Fantastic, and slowly put the whole of the left foot down onto the mat. Stand with your eyes closed in mountain pose and simply notice. And gently open your eyes. So establish a focal spot ahead of you, wherever that is. Now, if you want to turn slightly away from the screen, that's absolutely fine. Just be aware that if you turn your head to look back at the screen, just that turning of the head can really upset the balance. So possibly looking in the direction of the screen, but just taking your gaze up so you can tilt your gaze down and up without moving the head. That's a great place to be to assist with your balance. But it's lovely to have something just to gaze at, to fix a spot for a soft gaze. So we're coming to eagle balance. So we've done the legs, we were sitting down, we've done the arms, we're going to put the two things together. So with your eyes open, gazing at that focal spot, pour the weight into your left leg, into your left foot, find the ball of your right foot, soften the knee of your left leg. And then we're going to wrap the right leg around the left. Now it can wrap around and the tips of the toes touch the floor. So you've got this little stabilizer. Great place to be here. Also a great place to just have the wall behind you. So let's keep the tips of the toes on the floor and sort the arms out, okay? So arms go wide, hug with your left arm on top, wiggle your elbows past one another and then interlace your arms, holding them anywhere that feels comfy. Brilliant. So from here we just notice whether we want to encourage the right foot to tuck a little bit more as if it's going to go behind the left leg. It doesn't have to. It might do, it might not. And notice. Brilliant. So bring the right toes back down, and then you can unravel the arms, unravel the legs. Have a little ease and a wiggle, and we'll try the other side. So first off, we'll take the left leg over the right and find just the tips of the left toes, soften the right knee. Then we can sort out the arms, and then we can come back to the legs. So arms go a bit wide, right arm on top as you do a big hug, and interlace the arms into their eagle arms. Then you can see where you want to take the foot and the leg, and you can tuck your left toes behind your right leg if you want to. Super. And slide your left foot down so your toes connect with the floor. Unravel your arms. Unravel your legs. Take your feet a little bit wide. Stick your bottom out. Swish your tail feathers. I don't know how big eagle tail feathers are, but imagine they're enormous, and have a good old swish. So a couple of options. You could come down to a froggy squat and lower yourself between your legs to ease. You could come to a bent knee, raggy doll forward bend, where you're supporting your body on your thighs. Just a little bit of length into the top of the back of the pelvis, into the lower back, which works really hard when you're standing on one leg. And then bring yourself all the way down and find your relaxation position. You might quite like to have not the sausage blanket, but the folded up blanket underneath your upper back, and your arms out just to touch the tiny supported back bend, knees bent if you're doing this one. But you don't have to do this. You can have your legs up the wall, legs up on a chair, legs on a bed. You could have your knees supported by your bolster, anything at all that suits you to find your comfy place. If you've got your legs up on a bed or a sofa or your knees on a bolster, the other delicious thing to try, if you've not tried it yet, I honestly cannot recommend it enough, is to have your sausage, just mopping it up for you, knees supported somewhere, they can be on a chair, and your ankles supported so the heels of your feet don't come down. And it looks like nothing, and you think that's not going to make that much of an improvement, but it's really lovely. So if you fancy that, give it a go. Any position at all to find your lovely, comfy relaxation position, using your sighing out breath to let yourself settle and ease. So relaxation's lovely because the body softens. Relaxation also might be that point in time where the body softens and eases, and then the mind starts to jump about. So if you know that that's what happens with your mind, and what you want to do is stay in that lovely place where the outside world is not coming back in just yet, then easing yourself into your relaxation, softening your abdomen, noticing your breath, and counting your out breath backwards from 20. It's your time to let go. It's your time to not have any of those other thoughts if you don't want them there. To soften, to ease. Just for a minute or 2 minutes, perhaps you count backwards from 20, counting your out breath. Single point of focus until you hear the sound of my voice again. After your next out breath, releasing your count. Allow your focus to return to your physical body. Just being aware of where you are in your room, what's around you. Beginning to ease and move. Maybe a yawn, a stretch, a wiggle of fingers and toes, a hug of the knees to the chest, whatever feels right for you. To gently ease yourself back.